Social entrepreneurship is one path towards contributing to tackling social, environmental, and economic challenges. Social entrepreneurship is not the one way, the one silver bullet that we're going to solve all the world's problems. It's just one path. We still need other paths. We need governments to do their job. We need the private sector to be regulated and to practice conscious capitalism. We need civil society. We need all sectors to be engaged in tackling social, environmental, and economic challenges. And social entrepreneurship is one approach by which anyone in any sector, whether it's government, private, nonprofit, academic, can just think differently and be entrepreneurial about tackling these challenges, about mobilizing resources differently. But we have to keep in mind that any approach has its limitations, and of course social entrepreneurship also has its limitations. So the important thing is for entrepreneurs to be working with others in partnership across sectors. One example of what I mean by the limitations of social entrepreneurship, one of the definitions of social entrepreneurship by Roger Martin and Sally Osberg compares social entrepreneurs to social service providers who are helping people one person at a time without really changing the system but taking direct action, and also compares them to people who are advocating and lobbying for social change. So in that case, you are trying to change the system, but you're not taking direct action. You're asking someone else to, like a lawmaker. And social entrepreneurs are taking direct action and changing the system. But that doesn't mean that we as social entrepreneurs can't also just be humanitarian sometimes, or can't also just provide a direct service to one person, even if we're not changing the system, right? We still have to be humanitarian and just help people sometimes when you just have to help people, even if it's not changing the system. And it also doesn't mean that we as social entrepreneurs can't also be activists and be lobbying for policies and change at that level. So even if social entrepreneurship is different from social service and from lobbying and activism, we need all three, and we need more. We need all the different approaches to creating social change. And social entrepreneurship is just one of those approaches. The key ingredient to engaging a community in social entrepreneurship is listening. Get out there and talk to people, and most importantly, listen to them. There's a word in social innovation called sensing. Sensing means that instead of having an idea that you think is the solution, you go in and just use all your senses to understand and learn about the situation. And the ideas come from others, from the people that you are trying to serve. When I was a student, I was so eager to create change, and I thought that if I have an idea, I will implement it as quickly as possible, and people will thank me afterwards, after it works. And what I was taught is that even if it takes longer to engage with people, to have ideas come from others, to do things in the way that you might not think is perfect, and even if the result is not perfect, people will be more satisfied with the outcome because they felt they were part of it, compared to if you do something alone. Even if you think it's perfect, people will be dissatisfied with it because they were not part of it. So the most important thing is putting your ego aside, being humble, letting go of control. Don't think that you are going to do the work and you are going to control the outcome. Don't even think it has to be perfect, because it won't, but it needs to come from the people. Innovation is a necessary ingredient of social entrepreneurship and of creating change, in the sense that the whole point of social entrepreneurship is not just doing more of the same, right? It's about finding a way to do things differently. But that doesn't mean that you have to reinvent the wheel or come up with a whole new invention or idea or product or service. Innovation can sometimes mean finding new ways to deliver and offer existing solutions to underserved populations. It can mean involving people who aren't usually involved. It can mean finding new ways to create jobs for people, or just new approaches to get things done. So what I'm trying to say is that while innovation is a key ingredient in social entrepreneurship, it doesn't mean inventing something new. It just means finding a way of doing things differently. So don't innovate for the sake of innovating. The goal here is social change, and innovation is a means to an end. It's a way of finding new ways to mobilize resources to change the current equilibrium. My advice about measuring impact is that you shouldn't measure too much. Try to keep it simple. Try to let measuring the outcomes be part of the process of implementing the product or service, not something extra. Dedicate someone specialized to do it, to measure, collect information, analyze it, and communicate it. Let the people you're serving and the stakeholders and the community be part of analyzing and discussing the results, just like any part of your social entrepreneurship endeavor. And there's another note I wanted to add, which is that most people don't get this, but we can't actually measure impact. Measuring impact means proving that this social change happened as a direct result of your work and that it would not have happened otherwise. And that's really hard to prove, but that's okay because it's not the point and it's not the goal. What we want to do is measure outcomes, which are a little bit different from impact, but we want to measure the changes that are taking place. And if you have a lot of fancy economic methodology, you can measure your attribution, which means you can attribute those changes to your work only and say they wouldn't have happened otherwise. But I actually think that's oftentimes not really the point and the purpose. It's really just measuring contribution. Rather than proving that this change wouldn't have happened without you, can you just say that you contributed to collective change? Because most of the social problems that we're trying to solve really require a lot of different stakeholders and partners to work together to create them. And so rather than competing against each other for grants and for higher numbers and for metrics, can we demonstrate that we're working together collectively to contribute to collective social change? I think that's the most important thing, and it's really a mindset change that needs to happen both for social entrepreneurs and for funders.